How many times have you silenced your own inner voice because you were afraid of what others would think? How many times have you felt your heart asking for a new path, but chose to ignore it so you wouldn't be judged, so you wouldn't take risks, so you wouldn't lose the supposed security you already have? Life is full of these moments when we choose the easier, safer road, but also the emptier one. It's in those moments that dreams are left behind, that time runs without purpose, that the soul slowly fades away. Steve Jobs said, "Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition." And when he said that, he wasn't offering a nice phrase to memorize, but a reminder that life is far too short to be wasted on choices that don't reflect who you truly are. The heart knows your deepest desires. It knows what gives meaning to your days, and intuition is a silent compass that points the way even when reason can't see it. The problem is that the courage to listen to these two inner guides is rare. Many know what they want, but few have the boldness to follow through. Following the heart doesn't mean living without fear. It means living in spite of it. Fear will always be present, like an annoying companion trying to convince you that it's better not to take risks. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act even while trembling inside. The one who listens to the heart understands that life is not made of guarantees, but of choices. And every true choice is costly. It costs comfort, it costs approval, it costs security. But it also gives back something priceless: authenticity, purpose, inner peace, and intuition. It's that sudden feeling that can't be explained. It's like a warning that something doesn't align with your essence, or a quiet certainty that a particular direction is the right one. Everyone has felt it at some point, that inexplicable discomfort urging you to step back, or that sudden clarity pushing you to move forward. But what do most people do? They ignore it. They look for proof, justifications, logical explanations. But intuition doesn't give advance proof. It only shows the light. Those who trust follow. Those who doubt stand still. Ignoring the heart and intuition carries a silent cost. It's waking up every day without enthusiasm. It's going through automatic tasks with no spark in your eyes. It's pretending to be fine while carrying inside an emptiness that nothing can fill. It's smiling on the outside while screaming on the inside. That is the reality of many. Correct lives, stable routines, but weary souls. And why? Because at some point they silenced the heart. At some point they let intuition be suffocated by fear. At some point they chose to live more to please others than to honor themselves. But there always comes a moment when restlessness grows. The heart never gives up on being heard. It insists. It returns. It nudges. Intuition keeps whispering signals, even when ignored. And that discomfort is, in fact, an invitation. It's the call to wake up, to rise, to change. Many call it a crisis. But a crisis is nothing more than life pushing you out of your comfort zone, showing you that you're not meant to stay there. And then comes the dilemma: remain comfortable or take the risk. Keep the empty routine or follow your inner truth. This is the moment when many give up because courage seems too heavy a burden. But the question is, which price is greater? The price of change or the price of regret? You can bear the pain of trying and failing, but it's unbearable to carry the pain of never having tried. The heart always points the way, but it rarely points to the easiest one. It chooses the narrow path, full of stones, but also full of meaning, and intuition appears as a companion, showing when it's time to move faster, when it's time to pull back, when it's time to wait. Together, heart and intuition form an infallible guide, but without courage, they become nothing more than muffled voices. It takes courage to say yes to a dream when everyone else says no. It takes courage to say no to a comfortable life when the soul is asking for something greater. It takes courage to move forward without guarantees, trusting only in what you feel inside. But every time someone dares to do this, the world around them changes. The weight of routine gives way to enthusiasm. Emptiness turns into fulfillment, and life, which once seemed like just a sequence of days, regains the taste of a true journey. But many still ask, how can you tell the difference between the heart and a passing impulse? The answer lies in persistence. What comes from the heart does not fade away. You may try to forget it, you may try to suppress it, but it always returns. Months may pass, years may pass, but the restlessness comes back. What is true does not disappear with time. On the contrary, it matures, it grows, it insists. And intuition? How can you trust something that offers no proof? Just remember how many times you've regretted not listening to it. How many times did you ignore that silent warning, only to realize later it had been right all along? Intuition doesn't shout, it doesn't force, it suggests. It's up to you to trust it or ignore it. But life always rewards those who trust. Following the heart and intuition is living in movement, and life is movement. What stops, dies. What stagnates, gets lost. You were not created just to repeat the same days, but to evolve, to grow, to learn. When you choose to settle, you choose to give up without noticing. But when you choose to listen to yourself, you rediscover the joy of being alive. Courage, therefore, is not a detail. It is the element that turns the invisible into the visible. The heart shows what it desires. Intuition shows how to begin. But courage is what executes. Without it, everything remains in imagination. With it, everything starts to happen. And why do so many people lack courage? Because they confuse fear with a sign of danger. They think that feeling fear means they shouldn't move forward, but fear is natural. It shows up whenever there's change, whenever there's risk, whenever there's something new. It's not fear that should decide for you. It's courage. It's precious. Fear shows you're stepping out of the familiar. Courage shows you're moving toward what really matters. Now imagine someone who every day wakes up and chooses to ignore the heart, chooses to silence intuition, chooses to live the life others want. What happens to that person after 10, 20, 30 years? They accumulate stability, but also regret. They achieve external success, but lack inner fulfillment. They have comfort, but no peace. Life becomes a collection of what ifs. What if I had tried? What if I had trusted? What if I had listened to myself? These what ifs weigh more than any failure, because failure teaches, but regret only hurts. Regret eats away inside. Regret is the echo of a heart that has been ignored for far too long. What if today were the day to change that story? What if today were the day you finally chose to listen to yourself? What if this moment were the turning point when you decide you will no longer silence your heart, no longer ignore your intuition, no longer allow fear to be greater than your truth, What would your life look like a few years from now if you started today? You don't need to change everything at once. All it takes is the first step. The heart doesn't ask for haste, it asks for truth. Intuition doesn't ask for proof, it asks for trust. And courage doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for decision. Decide today. Decide now. Decide not to live one more life that isn't yours. The heart keeps insisting. Intuition keeps whispering. And courage is within you, waiting to be awakened. And it's at this point that life begins to change. Following the heart is not a sudden leap into the unknown, but a series of small steps that demand daily decisions. Each step taken in harmony with what the soul asks for strengthens your self-confidence. It's as if, little by little, the weight of doubt begins to dissolve. Fear still shows up. Insecurity still tries to creep in. But something stronger begins to grow. The certainty that even without guarantees, it's worth it. And here's a truth few people realize. The heart never cries out in vain. When it points towards something, it's because the strength to achieve it already exists within you. The problem is that most people don't believe it. They wait to feel confident before acting. But confidence is born only after action. Those who dare to take the step realize they were capable all along, but only discovered it by moving forward. And intuition, so often muffled by logic, proves its faithfulness in every detail. Those who learn to listen notice signs in simple places, in the silent discomfort before a wrong choice, in the relief when considering the right decision, in the serenity that comes even without an apparent reason. It's as if life is always sending messages, but only the attentive can catch them. Intuition doesn't explain, it only points. It's up to you to trust it. How many times have you realized the answer was clear all along, but only had the courage to admit it later? How many times did you ignore the inner warning and end up paying the price? And how many times, when you finally decided to listen, did you discover that everything fell into place? That is proof that the inner voice doesn't make mistakes. What makes mistakes is the anxious mind that insists on silencing it. But following the heart doesn't mean there will be no pain. It only means the pain will have meaning. A life guided by the heart still faces difficulties, but they are difficulties that teach, that shape, that strengthen. Unlike the pain of those who live in silence, a pain that builds nothing, that only consumes. The difference between the two kinds of pain is simple. One pushes you forward, the other paralyzes you. And life demands movement. Everything in nature is in constant flow. Rivers run, winds blow, trees grow, nothing stays still. So why would anyone believe they can stagnate without losing their very essence? Living without listening to the heart is like damming a river. On the outside it may look calm, but inside it builds pressure until it bursts. The soul was not made for stagnation, but for expansion. Following the heart, therefore, is honoring the natural law of life, to grow, to evolve, to transform. Every time someone chooses to ignore this law, they feel an emptiness that nothing can fill. It doesn't matter how much money they accumulate, how many external achievements they display, how many appearances they keep. Without truth, there is no fulfillment. And fulfillment is only born from a life aligned with the heart and intuition. But then doubt arises. What if I follow and it goes wrong? What if I trust and everything falls apart? That's the greatest ghost that keeps many from living their own story. But there's a trap in that way of thinking. believing that making mistakes means failure. Mistakes are part of the process. A mistake is just another way of learning. True failure is giving up before trying. True failure is silencing your own voice and settling for less than you could live. And what if, instead, everything goes right? That question is rarely asked, because a mind trained by fear only sees danger. But what if the dream comes true? What if intuition is correct? What if the step you're afraid to take is exactly the one that will open unimaginable doors? That possibility exists, but it only reveals itself to those who dare. Courage, therefore, is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Without it, the heart becomes just a physical organ. Without it, intuition turns into nothing more than an ignored whisper. Courage is the bridge between what you feel and what you live. Without crossing that bridge, life will never be complete. How many people have missed out on the extraordinary because they chose the comfort of the familiar? How many dreams have died because someone waited for support that never came? How many stories were never told because one step of courage was missing? And you, how long will you wait? How long will you postpone? How long will you stay silent? Following the heart is saying yes to yourself. It's looking within and recognizing that there is something greater than fear, greater than criticism, greater than judgment. It's realizing that the value of a life is not in the opinions of others, but in the inner peace of knowing you were true to your own essence. Intuition is not the enemy of reason. It's a complement. Reason analyzes, but intuition feels, and often, feeling is truer than analyzing. There are those who spend their whole lives searching for meaning in books, in courses, in rules, but the greatest manual is already within. The heart shows what it desires. Intuition shows how to act. Courage is the switch that starts the process. But those who search outside rarely find it, because the answer was never out there. It has always been inside. What if you started now? What if today were the moment to stop and listen to what your soul has been asking for years? Maybe you'll discover that you already know what you need to do. You just don't admit it. Maybe you'll realize that you already have clarity about what you want. You just haven't accepted it yet. Maybe you'll understand that life isn't waiting for anything else from you except this decision to listen. It doesn't matter what has already happened, how many years were wasted, how many times you ignored the calling. The heart doesn't hold grudges. Intuition doesn't get tired. They're still there, patiently waiting for the moment when you finally find the courage. It could be today. It could be now. And when that happens, everything changes. The energy changes. The way you look at life changes. Life gains color. What once seemed like routine becomes a journey. What once felt like a burden becomes purpose. What once felt empty becomes fulfillment. Because living your own truth is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Of course, it won't be easy. There will be setbacks. There will be criticism. There will be nights when fear feels stronger than courage. But every time you persist, you will discover a strength you didn't know you had. That strength has always been inside you, just waiting to be awakened. And the awakening happens when you finally decide to follow your heart and trust your intuition. And what if you don't do it? If you keep ignoring, keep postponing, keep silencing yourself, life will keep moving on. Days will turn into months, months into years. And when you look back, you'll realize everything could have been different. The pain of regret will be the reminder that you had the chance but didn't dare. And nothing hurts more than realizing it was fear, not lack of opportunity, that stole your life. Life is far too short to live other people's dreams. It's too short to waste listening only to outside noise while ignoring your inner silence. True success is born when you decide to trust yourself, not in what they say, not in what they expect, not in what they approve, but in what you feel. Because deep down, you already know what you truly want. You always have. The heart points the way. Intuition shows the time to act. Courage is what turns that truth into reality. And before we finish, share this video with a friend and subscribe to our channel. Here, you'll always find reflections to help you in your daily life. See you next time.